When 8-year-old Calvin walked out of the restroom at a rest stop off Interstate 70 in eastern Colorado on a Sunday afternoon in early September and discovered that his father's sedan, containing his father, stepmother Monica, and their shared weekend plans, had driven away without him, the boy did exactly what his mother had always told him to do if he ever got lost. He stayed put, stayed calm, and waited for someone to remember he was missing. That someone arrived nearly 3 hours later in the form of Paul Tiger Brennan, a weathered biker with the Mountain Kings MC who noticed what dozens of passing travelers had ignored. A child sitting motionless like forgotten luggage, waiting for a family that had already crossed into Kansas. And who would spend the next 300 miles proving to Calvin that being left behind by one person doesn't mean you don't belong anywhere. The rest stop off Interstate 70 in eastern Colorado was the kind of place people barely registered. A dozen parking spaces, a low brick building with restrooms and vending machines, several metal picnic tables overlooking endless prairie that disappeared into heat shimmer. At 5:47 p.m. on a Sunday in early September, Paul Tiger Brennan rolled his Road King into the motorcycle section and cut the engine, needing a moment of stillness after 4 hours of asphalt and wind. Tiger was 44 years old, secretary for the Mountain Kings MC out of Denver, a solid man with silver threading through his beard, sun-lined face, and tattooed forearms that mapped 2 decades of brotherhood and highway miles. He'd earned his road name not from aggression, but from protective instinct. Fierce when his people were threatened, gentle when gentleness was needed. The patches on his leather vest marked him as a man who'd built his real family on the road after his father had chosen a new wife and her children over him at age 12. He was headed to Kansas City for a funeral, an old army buddy who'd eaten his gun after years of fighting demons nobody could see, leaving behind questions nobody could answer. Tiger had ridden out alone, needing the rhythm of the road to make peace with another brother lost to wars that never really end. He walked to the restroom, splashed cold water on his face, bought a Dr. Pepper from the vending machine, and was heading back to his bike when he saw the boy. If you believe in the power of strangers who stop when everyone else keeps driving, hit that subscribe button now. This is a story about being forgotten and being found. Stay with us. The boy sat at the far picnic table, facing the parking lot with his back perfectly straight, hands folded on the metal surface. He wore a blue t-shirt with cartoon characters on it and jeans that were too long, bunched at his ankles. A small yellow backpack rested against the bench beside him. He didn't fidget. Didn't swing his legs, didn't look at his phone because he didn't have one. He just sat there, waiting, like a package left, at the wrong address. Tiger had seen plenty of kids at rest stops over the years, running wild, crying in car seats, glued to tablets while their parents stretched and complained about traffic. This kid was different. This kid was too still. Tiger approached slowly, keeping his hands where the boy could see them, his voice low and steady. "Hey there, buddy. You doing okay?" The boy's eyes flicked toward him, then back to the parking lot. Up close, Tiger could see the sunburn on the kid's nose, the empty water bottle on the table, the way his small fingers were pressed white against each other. "Where are your folks?" Tiger asked, stopping a respectful distance away. The boy was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, like he was reading from a script he'd memorized. "My dad forgot me." The words hit Tiger square in the chest. Not "my dad's coming back" or "my dad will be here soon." "My dad forgot me." Past tense. Fact, not hope. Tiger pulled out his phone, checked the time, then looked back at the boy. "How long you been sitting here?" The boy shrugged, a tiny movement of his shoulders. "I don't know." A while. Tiger glanced at the empty parking space in front of the table, saw the faint oil stain where a car had been parked. He looked at the boy's sunburn again, the way the kid's lips were chapped and cracked. 3 hours, maybe more. "Mind if I sit down?" Tiger asked. The boy shrugged again. Tiger sat across from him, setting his Dr. Pepper on the table. He studied the kid, 8, maybe 9 years old, brown hair that needed a cut, brown eyes that had already learned how to expect disappointment. "What's your name?" "Calvin." "Calvin, I'm Tiger." He waited, but the boy didn't react to the unusual name. "You got a phone? Someone we can call?" "My mom, but my dad has her number in his phone." Tiger nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. A father who drove away. A mother who didn't know. A kid who'd been trained well enough to sit still and wait, even when nobody was coming. He thought about the funeral waiting for him in Kansas City, about the schedule he was supposed to keep, about the easy thing, calling the cops, making it their problem, getting back on the road. Then he looked at Calvin again, at the way the boy sat like he was trying not to take up space, at the backpack that probably held everything a kid thinks he needs when his parents split him between 2 houses, at the quiet devastation in those 8-year-old eyes. Tiger checked his watch. 5:47 p.m. If the father left around 3, he was well over 100 miles away by now. Tiger made his choice. "Calvin," he said, his voice gentle but certain, "I'm not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out together, okay?" For the first time, the boy's eyes met his, and Tiger saw what he needed to see, a flicker of something that hadn't been there before, relief. Tiger pulled out his phone and dialed 911, keeping his voice calm and steady as he explained the situation to the dispatcher. A minor abandoned at a rest stop, alone for nearly 3 hours. Father's whereabouts unknown. He stayed on the line, stayed close to Calvin until he saw the Colorado State Patrol cruiser pull into the lot 20 minutes later. Trooper Martin was a stocky man in his 50s with steel gray hair and the weathered look of someone who'd seen too many bad situations on these highways. He approached with caution, eyes moving from Tiger's MC patches to the small boy at the table, assessing the scene with practiced efficiency. Tiger stepped back, gave the trooper space, and watched as Martin knelt beside Calvin, speaking in the gentle tone cops reserve for children and victims. Calvin repeated his story in that same flat voice, the bathroom, coming out, the empty parking space. "My dad forgot me." Martin stood, radioed in the details, then looked at Tiger. "You got a name and number for the father?" Calvin recited his father's cell phone number from memory. Martin dialed, and they waited. 1 ring, 2, 3, 4. A woman's voice answered, breathless and irritated. "Hello? Ma'am, this is Trooper Martin with Colorado State Patrol. I'm calling about a child." "What? Who is this?" The woman, Monica, Tiger would learn later, sounded confused. "Is this about the accident? We didn't see anything." "Ma'am, do you have a child named Calvin with you?" There was a pause. Tiger could hear movement, fabric rustling, a man's voice in the background asking what was wrong. "He's been in the car the whole time," Monica said, but her voice had changed. Uncertain now. Wait, hold on." More rustling, urgent voices, then silence that stretched too long. When Monica came back on the line, she was screaming. Oh my God, he's not here. Where is he? Where's Calvin?" Martin kept his voice level, professional. "Ma'am, Calvin is safe. He's at a rest stop off I-70, mile marker 437. How long ago did you leave that location?" We stopped for gas about an hour ago in Lyman. We thought he got back in." Her voice broke into sobs. Tiger could hear the father now, demanding the phone, his voice sharp with panic and something else. Guilt, maybe, or anger at being caught. The father confirmed what Tiger had already calculated. They were 120 miles away. Racing back would take over 2 hours, maybe more depending on traffic and how fast the trooper would let them drive. Martin ended the call and turned to Tiger. "The parents are en route. We'll need to wait." Tiger looked at Calvin, sitting quietly with his hands still folded, listening to adults decide his fate. The sun was lower now, the temperature dropping, and the kid had been through enough. "Trooper," Tiger said, "I need to make another call." He took Calvin's mother's name and work number from the boy, stepped away far enough for privacy, but close enough that Calvin could still see him, and dialed the hospital in Kansas City. When Margaret came on the line, Tiger could hear the ambient noise of the ER behind her, monitors beeping, voices calling out orders. She sounded rushed, distracted. "This is Margaret. Ma'am, my name is Paul Brennan. I'm calling about your son, Calvin. He's safe." There was a sharp intake of breath. "What? What happened? Where is he?" "He's with me at a rest stop in Colorado. His father accidentally left him here a few hours ago. He's not hurt, just scared and tired." Margaret's breath came in short gasps, the sound of someone trying not to fall apart on a hospital floor. "Oh God! Oh my God, is he okay? Can I talk to him?" Tiger handed the phone to Calvin, watched the boy's face crumble the moment he heard his mother's voice. "Mom," Calvin whispered, and started to cry for the first time. After a few minutes, Calvin handed the phone back. Margaret's voice was steadier now, fierce with protective fury. "Mr. Brennan, where exactly are you?" Tiger explained. "Colorado." The father racing back, but hours away. Then he took a breath and made his offer. "Ma'am, I'm headed to Kansas City anyway. Funeral for an old friend. If you trust me, if the trooper clears it, I can bring Calvin home to you tonight. I'll have him there by midnight." The line went quiet. Tiger knew what she was hearing. A stranger, a biker, offering to transport her child 300 miles across state lines. It was insane. It was the kind of thing mothers were taught never to trust. "Let me talk to the trooper," Margaret finally said. Tiger handed the phone to Martin and waited while the mother made the choice that would change everything. When Martin hung up, he looked at Tiger with something like respect. "She wants you to bring him home." But respect didn't mean trust. Not yet. Trooper Martin walked Tiger back to his patrol car, away from where Calvin sat finishing a granola bar another traveler had offered. Martin's hand rested near his belt, not threatening, just ready. "I need to run you," Martin said flatly. "Full background, and I'm calling your MC." Tiger nodded. He'd expected this. Paul James Brennan, DOB March 15th, 1981. Colorado driver's license. He rattled off his license number from memory, then his address, his insurance information, everything Martin would need. The trooper ran the checks while Tiger stood beside the cruiser, watching the sun sink lower. His record came back clean, not even a speeding ticket in the last 5 years. No warrants, no criminal history. Just a working man with a motorcycle and a club patch. Martin made another call, this one to the Mountain Kings MC chapter house in Denver. Tiger could hear the phone ring 3 times before someone picked up. "This is Trooper Martin, Colorado State Patrol. I need to speak to your chapter president about one of your members. Paul Brennan, goes by Tiger." There was a pause. Then Martin's expression shifted slightly as a deep voice on the other end apparently got serious. "Yeah, I've got him here at a rest stop off I-70. There's a situation with an abandoned miner. No, nothing like that. He wants to transport the kid to Kansas City. I understand, but I need to know. Martin went quiet, listening. His jaw worked. He glanced at Tiger, then back at his notepad. Yeah, got it. And you'd vouch for him personally? Another pause. All right, I appreciate that. Martin hung up and turned to Tiger, his skepticism replaced by something closer to certainty. Your president says you're one of the good ones. Says we can trust you with our lives. Martin's eyes searched Tiger's face. Says you've got a history of helping people nobody else stops for. Tiger said nothing. What was there to say? Martin radioed in his approval, contacted Child Protective Services for authorization, and started the paperwork. Margaret called back twice to confirm, her voice shaking but determined each time. Yes, she trusted this man. Yes, she was giving permission. Yes, she understood the risk and took it anyway. They were 40 minutes into the paperwork when a silver sedan screeched into the parking lot. Calvin's father burst out of the driver's side, a thin man in his late 30s with thinning hair and wild eyes. Monica followed more slowly. Mascara streaked down her face. Calvin! The father rushed toward the picnic table where the boys sat. Oh my God, buddy, I'm so sorry. We didn't know. But Calvin didn't run to him. Didn't move at all. Just sat there looking at his father the way you'd look at a stranger who'd forgotten your name. Sir, I need you to step back. Martin intercepted the father, held up a hand. We're in the middle of a legal process here. Legal process? He's my son. I'm taking him home right now. Actually, Martin said, voice flat and official, the boy's mother has legal custody and has authorized alternative transportation. The father's face went red. Alternative? What are you talking about? I drove 2 hours to get back here. You should have thought about that before you drove 2 hours away from him, Tiger said quietly. The father spun toward him, taking in the leather vest, the patches, the tattoos. Who the hell are you? The guy who didn't drive away. Margaret's words from the phone call echoed in Tiger's mind. The man who stopped is safer than the man who drove away, the father argued. He threatened. He pleaded. Monica stood behind him, crying silent tears that might have been guilt or shame or both. But the paperwork was done. Margaret's permission was documented. Trooper Martin handed Tiger a copy of the authorization, looked him in the eye, and nodded. Get that boy home safe. Tiger walked to where Calvin sat, held out his hand. You ready? Calvin looked past Tiger at his father, at the man who'd spent 2 hours making excuses instead of 1 minute doing a head count. Then Calvin took Tiger's hand and stood up. They walked toward the Road King together, leaving the father standing in the parking lot with nothing but his apologies and empty air. Tiger pulled a spare helmet from his saddlebag, one he kept for the occasional passenger, though it had been years since anyone had ridden with him. It was too big for Calvin, but Tiger adjusted the straps as tight as they'd go and made sure it sat securely. You ever been on a bike before? Tiger asked. Calvin shook his head, eyes wide as he looked at the massive Harley Road King. All right, here's what you need to know. Hold on to me tight. When I lean, you lean with me. Don't fight it. And if you need me to stop for any reason, just tap my shoulder twice. Got it? Calvin nodded. Tiger swung his leg over the bike, then helped Calvin climb on behind him. The boy's small arms wrapped around Tiger's waist, barely reaching all the way around. Tiger felt those hands trembling. You're doing great, kid. Just hold on. The engine roared to life, and they pulled out of the rest stop onto I-70 East. At first, Calvin was rigid against Tiger's back, every muscle tensed like he was bracing for impact. Tiger kept the speed moderate, letting the boy adjust to the sensation of the road rushing beneath them, the wind pushing at their bodies, the rumble of the engine vibrating through everything. But somewhere around the 30-mile mark, Tiger felt the change. Calvin's grip loosened just slightly. His body began to move with the bike instead of against it. The tension bled away, replaced by something else. Not quite relaxation, but a kind of surrender to the rhythm of the highway. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the prairie gold and amber. The road stretched endlessly ahead, and for those miles, there was nothing but the bike, the boy, and the healing power of forward motion. They stopped for gas in Lyman, the same town where Calvin's father had failed to notice his son was missing. Tiger filled the tank while Calvin stood beside the bike, helmet off, hair wild from the wind. "You hungry?" Tiger asked. Calvin shrugged, but Tiger saw the way the kid's eyes went to the gas station convenience store. Inside, Tiger bought beef jerky, a bottle of water, and 2 ice cream sandwiches. They sat on the curb outside, watching the sun sink lower, eating in comfortable silence. "You know why they call me Tiger?" Tiger asked after a while. Calvin looked up at him, ice cream on his upper lip. "It's not because I'm mean or tough. It's because I protect the people I care about. Like a mama tiger with her cubs." Tiger took a bite of his ice cream sandwich. "See, the thing about the MC, the Mountain Kings, is that we're a family, not the kind you're born into, the kind you choose." Calvin was quiet, processing. "Most of us," Tiger continued, "we come from families that didn't work out. Dads who left, moms who couldn't handle it. People who were supposed to love us, but didn't know how." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We found each other on the road. We chose each other. And that choice, that means something." "My dad forgot me," Calvin said, softly. "I know, buddy." Tiger looked at the boy, at the sunburn and the tired eyes and the weight no 8-year-old should carry. "But that's his failure, not yours. You hear me? You're not forgettable. You're not easy to leave behind. He made a mistake. A bad one." Calvin picked at the wrapper of his ice cream sandwich. "Here's what I know about bad days," Tiger said. "They don't have to stay bad forever. Sometimes they turn into good stories. Sometimes they turn into the day you meet someone who changes everything." He held up his ice cream sandwich like a toast. "Today was a bad day, but maybe it's also the day you learn that there are people in this world who will stop when everyone else keeps driving." Calvin looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, the corner of his mouth lifted. Not a full smile, but close. The first glimpse of light in those dark eyes. "Can we keep going?" Calvin asked. Tiger stood, offered his hand. "Let's get you home." They climbed back on the Road King, and as they merged onto I-70 East, Tiger felt Calvin's arms wrap around him with less fear and more trust. The sun set behind them, and they rode toward Kansas City with 200 miles still to go. The last stretch of highway passed in darkness. Calvin had dozed off somewhere past Salina, his helmet resting against Tiger's back, his grip loose but present. Tiger felt the weight of the sleeping child and rode more carefully than he ever had in his life, taking curves like they were made of glass, braking so gradually the boy wouldn't wake. Kansas City rose up around them in scattered lights and highway signs. Tiger followed the GPS directions Margaret had texted, navigating off the interstate and into a residential neighborhood with older apartment buildings and trees that made shadows on the streetlights. Margaret's building was a 3-story brick structure with outside stairs and a small parking lot. Tiger pulled in at 11:37 p.m., killed the engine, and felt Calvin stir awake behind him. "We here?" the boy mumbled, voice thick with sleep. "We're here, buddy. Your mom's waiting." Tiger saw her before Calvin did. She stood under a streetlight near the building entrance, a woman in her mid-30s wearing blue scrubs, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had come loose. She was pacing, phone clutched in one hand, the other pressed to her mouth, pacing and crying and looking up every few seconds like she was praying to something she wasn't sure was listening. The headlight of the Harley cut through the darkness, and Margaret froze. Tiger helped Calvin off the bike, pulled the too big helmet from the boy's head. Calvin's hair was matted with sweat, his face creased from the helmet padding, his eyes still half closed from sleep. "Mom," Calvin said, and his voice cracked on the word. Margaret ran. She covered the distance between them in seconds, her shoes slapping the pavement, her breath coming in gasps. She didn't slow down. She dropped to her knees so hard Tiger heard the impact, and then her arms were around Calvin, pulling him against her chest like she could absorb him back into her body, where he'd be safe forever. "Baby," she sobbed into his hair. "Oh my God, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Calvin's small arms wrapped around her neck, and he was crying too. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and scared. The kind a child tries to hold back until he knows it's finally safe to let go. Tiger stood back, giving them space. He looked away, giving them privacy. This moment wasn't his. He was just the bridge that brought them back together. But then Margaret lifted her head, and her eyes found his through the tears. Her face was a wreck, mascara streaked, nose running, eyes red and swollen. She was still holding Calvin, still kneeling on the pavement, but she looked at Tiger with an intensity that made him feel seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. She didn't say anything, couldn't, probably, but her lips formed the words clearly. "Thank you." Tiger nodded once, a small dip of his chin that said, "I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times. Some moments don't need words. Some moments are so full, they can't hold anything more." Margaret stood slowly, Calvin clinging to her like a baby monkey, his legs wrapped around her waist, even though he was too big to be carried like that. She walked toward Tiger, one arm still supporting her son, and held out her free hand. Tiger took it. Her grip was strong, her palm warm. "Paul Brennan," he said quietly. "My friends call me Tiger. Margaret Chen." Her voice was rough from crying. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." She squeezed his hand tighter. "You brought my son home. You stopped when nobody else would. You..." Her voice broke. "You saved him." Tiger looked at Calvin, whose face was buried in his mother's shoulder, and thought about the boy sitting alone at that rest stop, waiting for someone to remember he existed. "He saved himself," Tiger said. "I just gave him a ride." Margaret laughed, a wet, broken sound. "Will you come inside? Let me make you coffee. Something to eat." "No, ma'am." Tiger glanced at his watch. Almost midnight. "I've got a funeral to get to in the morning. I should find a motel." "Then let me give you my number. Please." She shifted Calvin's weight, pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. In case you're ever back this way. In case Calvin wants to say thank you when he's feeling better." They exchanged numbers. Tiger saved hers under Margaret, Calvin's mom. He walked back to his bike, aware of them watching him. He swung his leg over, started the engine. The rumble felt lonely now, after hours of having a passenger. Tiger. Calvin had lifted his head from Margaret's shoulder. Will I see you again? Tiger looked at the boy, sunburned, exhausted, but safe now. Home now. Yeah, kid, Tiger said, surprised to realize he meant it. You'll see me again. Rode out of the parking lot, checked his mirror once to see Margaret and Calvin silhouetted under the streetlight, still holding each other like they might never let go. Some bridges, once crossed, don't disappear behind you. Some bridges become roads you travel for the rest of your life. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning in early December, Calvin turned 9 years old. The custody hearing had been brief and decisive. The judge had listened to Margaret's testimony, to Trooper Martin's report, to the father's stammering excuses. Calvin had spoken too, in the judge's chambers, telling the truth in that quiet, matter-of-fact way he had. My dad forgot me. The ruling came down like a gavel. Sole custody to Margaret. Supervised visitation only for the father, 2 hours every other Sunday at a neutral location with a social worker present. The father had left the courthouse alone, and Calvin hadn't asked about him since. Now Calvin sat at the small kitchen table in their apartment, Margaret setting out plates for the birthday lunch she'd promised, his favorite, spaghetti and meatballs. The cake sat on the counter, chocolate with blue frosting, 9 candles waiting to be lit. There was a knock at the door. Calvin looked at his mother. You expecting someone? Margaret smiled, the kind of smile that meant she'd been keeping a secret. Why don't you answer it? Calvin opened the door and froze. Tiger stood there, wearing his leather vest and a grin. Behind him were 3 other Mountain Kings members, big men with beards and tattoos, and patches that marked them as brothers. One of them held a small birthday cake decorated with a motorcycle made of frosting. Another held a wrapped package about the size of a shoebox. Happy birthday, kid, Tiger said. Calvin's face split into a smile so wide it looked like it might crack. Tiger, you came. Said I would, didn't I? Tiger stepped inside, and the other MC members followed, their presence filling the small apartment with the smell of leather and road dust and something that felt like safety. Margaret greeted them warmly, shaking hands, offering coffee. The men were gentle and polite, calling her ma'am, wiping their boots on the mat. Tiger knelt down in front of Calvin, eye to eye. We brought you something. Something special. He nodded to one of the members who handed over the wrapped package. Calvin tore into it, paper flying, and pulled out a leather vest, child-sized, perfectly fitted, with careful stitching and one patch sewn onto the back. Calvin turned it around, and his breath caught. Protected by the Mountain Kings. Tiger helped him into it, adjusting the shoulders, making sure it sat right. You're family now, kid, and family doesn't forget. Calvin threw his arms around Tiger's neck, holding on tight the way he'd held on during that long ride home. Tiger hugged him back, one hand on the boy's head, and over Calvin's shoulder he met Margaret's eyes. She was crying again, but these were different tears. Good ones. Thank you, she mouthed again, like she had that first night. Tiger just nodded. They ate cake, both cakes, and the Mountain Kings told stories about the road, about brotherhood, about the time Tiger had stopped to help a stranded family change a tire in a thunderstorm and ended up staying for dinner. Calvin listened with wide eyes, wearing his vest like armor, like belonging. When the MC members finally left, Tiger lingered at the door. I'll call you tomorrow, he told Calvin. Sunday, right? Sunday, Calvin confirmed, and Tiger kept his word. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., Calvin's phone would ring, and they'd talk about school and bikes and whatever else mattered to a 9-year-old boy who'd learned that family isn't always about blood. Tiger showed up for Calvin's school play that spring, sat in the back row wearing his vest, clapping louder than anyone when Calvin took his bow. He showed up for Calvin's first soccer game, standing on the sideline with Margaret, shouting encouragement when Calvin scored his first goal. And every summer, when the weather turned warm and the highways called, Tiger would pull up to Margaret's apartment on his Road King, and Calvin would run out wearing his vest and the helmet that finally fit. They'd ride together, not back to that rest stop, never back there, but forward, always forward, to new places and good memories, and the kind of stories that proved bad days could turn into something beautiful. Calvin grew up knowing something most kids never learned, that being forgotten by one person doesn't make you forgettable. It just means the right person hadn't found you yet. And sometimes the right person is a weathered biker with a protective heart who stops when everyone else keeps driving. Sometimes the right person is the family you choose on a random Sunday in September, on a stretch of highway where a boy waited and a man noticed. Sometimes the right person changes everything. Tiger's number is still saved in Calvin's phone under T Mountain Kings. They still talk every Sunday at 6 p.m. without fail. And every year on September 8th, the anniversary of that rest stop, they don't mourn what was lost. They celebrate what was found. Calvin is 16 now. He's learning to ride. Tiger's teaching him. Margaret tells people that a stranger saved her son that day, but Tiger knows the truth. Calvin saved himself by staying put, by trusting his mother's wisdom, by being brave enough to accept help from a man in leather who looked nothing like safety but was exactly that. If this story moved you, if you believe in the Tigers of this world who stop when everyone else keeps driving, subscribe to Biker Stories right now. Hit that button. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that they matter. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt invisible, forgotten, left behind, until someone finally saw you? Tell us your story. Let's honor the people who stop. Ride safe. Look out for each other. And remember, family isn't just blood. Family is who shows up when everyone else forgets. Subscribe, share, and never drive away.